Hello there. This one is called Quiet Time with Plants. That's my favourite pine tree. However, today I want to focus on the ones that I have special responsibility and care for, beginning with the dear aloe veras. Flowers, name I don't remember. Feeling the warm sun on my feet, radiating the heat from the tiles. And that's the end of the aloe veras. The oregano that's struggling. Parsley that's about to burst into flower. The thyme that's looking straggly. The chard being transplanted into its new pot. The lemon tree brought back from the brink into full aliveness, flowering beautifully. There's a little chard and spinach plants. We're all in their individual tiny pots, and I've just upgraded them to these lovely little container pots. The feeling of the sun on my feet, watching the tiny ants scurrying. Chrysanthemum due to flower some months ahead. More little aloe veras. These tomatoes are just allowing the wind to blow through them, happily protected from the worst of the wind on the corner of the balcony. And here are the chard and the magnificent spinach plants. Here are the dwarf beans. I've grown sage for years, but this is the first time I've ever had a flowering sage. Just picked up from a little organic market stall place last year, and it's been giving me such joy to see this richness of the flowers, which are completely counterposed by the scarlet of this geranium, which is thriving so brilliantly. And immediately to the right of this geranium is this geranium. A few months ago, those people would have just pulled it out and composted it, and I knew what was required was some patience. And it's just slowly getting bigger and bigger, more and more substantial. And I'm loving the contrast between the two very slightly different shades of scarlet in these two plants. And moving into these aloe veras, which are going to get some extra TLC. Been pulling out the weeds. They were beautiful purple flowers, and then they died off, so I've been pulling them out. Now they're dead. I'll have extra compost and special treats for those aloe veras. And here we've got the tomatoes and the chard together. And these these have only just been in this pot just a few days, but they're already leaping ahead. This was put in to its pot just a few hours ago. What I've got here is some shard at the bottom, and out of all my seeds just one runner bean germinated, and now you can see why they're called runner beans. Up and up and up we go, and it's run almost to the end of the bamboo, so I'll be putting a string and connecting it through to the balcony, and then it can spread all the way along the balcony. So let's just step inside to some of the old favourites. So this is my orchid that I found tossed into the compost last year, and I thought, we'll not have any of that, so straight out, and it's doing fine. And it's an unusual one because the flowers are on the one side and the leaves are source of all nutrition, 180 degrees on the other side. It's very special it's done that. Normally they'd be both on the same side. And then here we go with the avocados. Which give me such joy and delight. All rescued off compost heaps with a long root put into a pot. Next thing you know, just growing and growing and growing. And in this particular pot I decided to leave the weeds in because they just look so perfectly combined. See that big leaf there, that's a weed leaf, surrounded by all these avocado leaves. And this one went through a suffering time. It didn't like what it was 18 months ago, and all the leaves fell off, except right at the top, and now they've grown and replaced themselves. And here's this one. This is the one that's produced the wide shoots, the branches that you get to see on a lot of the films. And just look how lovely. New life, new growth. And this is a ginseng plant. I tried putting the ginseng plant outside and it was very unhappy indeed, and a lot of the leaves fell off, and I realized that it can't tolerate the wind. So I brought it inside and I was wondering what's going to happen, but you see these tiny little green leaves, that tiny green leaf? That's new growth. That means it's been through the experience of having too much wind and it's survived. And now again you can see those new leaves just beginning to thrive again. So the ginseng's recovering very nicely. Now the next orchid has spent months without flowering, producing these fantastically long, vibrant green leaves. And 3 days ago 1 flower out, 2 days ago 2 flowers out, and today 3 flowers out. It's doing just fine. So that orchid is the one I've inherited from my mum, and here's another one I've inherited from my mum with that classic orchid form. That really is state of the art, classic form. And here's a very unusual one that my daughter got. It's a relative of the orchids. Bought it for my mum when she was in the care home. And this is all the old growth, and there is a new growth. That little bit there, which shows it's surviving and thriving. And that's where I sit and make a lot of my films these days. And so I saved you this experience for the last of all. So some weeks ago I got some peas and I germinated them and I put them into little pots. They got big enough, maybe 5 centimeters tall, and I put them into this big pot. And what's happening is they grew and they grew and they grew, and I kept on supporting and tying them up, and they kept on growing and they kept on growing, and then they flowered. And I turned my back for what seemed like a moment, and suddenly I realised that there were pea pods. It happened so quickly I hadn't really had time to take it in. And there you can see the pea is inside the pod. So we come full circle from a few peas scattered into some compost soil, all the way through to just a matter of weeks later, pods with peas on. And I have the pleasure of sitting right next to these some of the time. So thank you very much for coming with me on this journey to the plants. All the love.